Yeah, so thanks for taking the time to sit down. One thing I like to ask people, especially if I'm kind of meeting them for the first time, is uh, during your free time, if you have any free time,
Hmm.
what do you like to do usually? Like, what is your jam?
What have I been doing recently? I've been playing a lot of um, ARAM with some friends.
ARAM.
Yeah. It's a mode on League of Legends. I'm really bad at vanilla League of Legends, but
Okay.
ARAM is like a stripped down version of it where it's just one lane and you randomly get a champion rather than selecting one. And it's really
Okay. Okay.
fun. So I've been doing that a lot to stay in touch with friends.
Gotcha.
Um, and with my partner, I'm rewatching New Girl, and he's watching it for the first time. And
Mm.
a bit of reading, a bit of running if I can get the effort up or the gumption up to do it. So
Sure. Sure.
yeah, stuff like that these days.
New Girl is one of those shows. There's this backlog of shows for me that I just have not gotten around to, but it's always on like sort of my to watch list.
It's really good. I feel like a lot of people assume it's just going to be a manic pixie dream girl-a-thon, but I will
mm,
I will defend Zoe Deschanel and New Girl until the day I die. She's genuinely super funny, and the cast is really good. And
is that the show with is God before I embarrass myself
Jake Johnson?
Jake Johnson. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
I'm.
yeah. And he's
It's like you
so
knew
good in it.
exactly who I was going to ask
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so good in it. I mean, the whole cast is really good, but he's my favorite for sure.
Not to keep talking about New Girl, but when did New Girl come out? Because
Can we just make
it's
this podcast entirely about New
yeah,
Girl?
listen, I don't give a shit like what we talk about on
When
this.
did
So
it
I'm
come
just
out?
if I like I'm genuinely just like when okay, that's one of those shows like where
2011.
everyone God damn 10 years ago. Fuck. Okay.
That's
It's
so
it's
nuts.
it's one of those things where like I'm like, "Oh yeah, I should watch New Girl." And then when you said New Girl, I was like, is that? Oh no. The show I'm thinking of is another show I want to watch called Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I don't know if you've seen
I
that.
have. It is also good.
Uh, yeah. And then I was like, no, New Girl. That's Zoe Deschanel. That's right. Well, I think let's just keep talking about New Girl. No, um, what have I been up to
Yeah,
lately?
what have you been up to?
I board games when I can, but it's obviously much harder.
Yeah. Are you using a tabletop simulator?
No, Board Game Arena.
Oh, I
I
haven't
don't know
even
if you're
heard of that.
familiar. Tabletop Simulator I've tried once, and it was good for what it was. Like, I mean, if you want the feel of like actually moving the shit around, I
Mm,
think that's pretty cool. But in terms of an interface, I would say that Board Game Arena is far superior, just because it
interesting.
streamlines everything. And I play with like a mix of people who some people are very heavy board gamers, some are very new to it, and having Board Game Arena sort of run everything for you in terms of like calculating, in terms of you just all you have to really do oftentimes is just click things,
Hmm.
and that's it. You don't have to drag or move anything. So
Interesting.
if you like board games and have not tried it, it's a very smooth interface, and the selection of games is pretty intense. Like it's all free. You can get like a paid account. Sounds like I'm sponsored by them. I'm not. It's really been like kind of like a lifesaver for me.
That's good to know about because I like board games and I play a lot of board games, but yeah, I found we've been playing a group of friends and I've been playing Gloomhaven on Tabletop Simulator, which seems like
Okay.
it would be a nightmare, but actually is pretty great.
Does that have one of those things where it's sort of integrated, like they run things for you, or is it still you're kind of moving things around on your own?
You're moving pieces and that kind of thing, but it streamlines it enough where my friend Grant, who usually is the poor sap that's like putting out all of the enemies and keeping track of all of their HP and
Sure.
flipping stuff for them, it streamlines a lot of that. Um,
Okay.
because setup for Gloomhaven takes 7 hours and breakdown takes 6 hours, and this makes it pretty easy. So, um,
Damn. See, I'm that sap with the physical version.
yeah, right.
I'm the one who's usually, setting everything up, running all the things. No, I have a friend who did recommend the tabletop simulator version to me, and it does sound nice, but it's like I'm already in the middle of. I don't know how far are you in your campaign
Honestly, we
ish like.
just restarted it, which is maybe kind of bananas because we were pretty far, but
Damn.
it just seemed like it would have been too complicated to try to pick up from where we were using that interface. So we kind of just said, fuck it. Were
you like over halfway, or like, there's
know,
like 100 dungeons? You don't have to do all of them. I would say we're probably like God, it's been so long now. Like maybe, I mean, now I don't know how time works anymore, but it's been over a year, obviously, and then beyond that. So I think we're about a third. I think we've done maybe like 30 dungeons in the physical version ish. I'm not sure where you left off, because that to me, even like that took like 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds about right. I'm so removed from the tracking of our progress. I'm such a leech. I just show up and and get to enjoy the game. Don't do any of the tracking.
Gotcha.
But we've cycled through quite a few characters, so I feel like we've been playing for a while. Like all of us have, I think, multiple times been able to retire our characters and start new ones. So
when you because I actually have kept the same character
really
for like 30 dungeons, because my my goal thing, where you, in order to retire you have to complete your goal, is so annoying.
What's yours?
Are
you allowed to tell me? Oh,
no, because
your pals will listen to this, and
they might might know it. But it involves something that's completely within my control, and I am working toward it. But what I did instead was I focused on just getting to level 9. And now that I'm level 9, I'm trying my best. I'll say it involves spending money on stuff.
I think I have the same one as you, and I'm not looking forward to it.
It is a fucking pain in the ass, because
it sounds like it.
With Gloomhaven, I'm usually like, because I play are you familiar with the Enox?
Yeah, the Brute.
Yes. Yeah, I play the Brute, and I'm usually like the tank. I'm usually the one, protecting everybody, doing big damage, and also taking a lot of the hits. So I'm not running around grabbing money.
Right.
Like, usually it's just, if I manage to like step on some coins, I can get it. Otherwise, I'm left to whatever I managed to get. So having a goal, a retirement goal, like I have a friend who's just, they're just scurrying around like they're this little rat thing, and they're just scurrying, like picking up coins wherever they go, and it's like, I mean, they also had a goal that was money based anyway, so it made sense.
Right.
But for me, I'm just like, guys, I want to play a new character, but I just gotta do this.
Yeah, so. I think I'm a little bit luckier because I'm the scoundrel, and she has like loot cards, and she can move a lot, and she can. So, but yeah, you're fucked, my dude. That's a rough shake.
I mean, it's so long ago. Also, I obviously want to dive back into it once I get the chance, but
right.
It's like man, it's something I'm not. It's like a love-hate thing, because I love playing as that character, but also I can't get any more XP, so it does just kind of feel like a waste.
Right.
On the board game front, God, people listening to this are like, God, because board games are like one of my big things, and they're like, stop fucking talking about board games. but I don't care. What are other games that you enjoy?
Let's see. When I can actually be around people. Although there is probably an online interface that works well for this, but we played a lot of code names. We finished Pandemic Legacy the first season and started the second season and didn't like it quite as much.
Okay.
Let's see. Arkham Horror we were also playing, but it was mostly Gloomhaven for a while, just because that game takes 7 centuries, but it's so fun. And then with another group of pals, I was playing Mysterium.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mysterium. Yeah, but then now with the pandemic, it's mostly just been Gloomhaven, honestly, and then playing chess with my partner.
Are you getting super into chess? Because it seems like a lot of people, when they get into it, that's all they do, pretty much.
Not really, actually. We kind of.
Oh, okay.
Well, we were playing a lot over the holiday, and we have the chessboard out, and my aspiration is to have like an ongoing game where we just move pieces, and as we're walking by the board, whoever's turn it is kind of looks at it, moves a piece, and then goes about their day.
Okay. Almost like a chess by mail sort of thing.
Yeah. Right. It is one of those games, though, where you just realize how little you know the deeper in you get.
Sure.
I don't know that I could win against anyone else. We're pretty evenly matched.
I see. From what I understand about like actual, because I obviously I know how to play chess, and I would say I am an completely low to average player. Does it involve memorizing? Just like how, like if this happens, you do this. Like, what would you say with your experience of chess is like to explain it to a moron like me? What would be like the sort of way to, how do you get better at chess?
I feel like we're probably a comparable skill level, but I mean, I know that there are obviously like moves, styles of, like there's like tactics, like known tactics. Sure. But so much of it really does seem like just really precise and intelligent prediction. And it really does seem like, okay, if I move here, they'll move here, so then I'll move here. Like, you have to think like 7 steps ahead. And then also be able to... The thing that I don't at all know how to do, I feel like early game, I'm sort of just floundering. I'm like, I guess I'll move this pawn, and I guess I'll move this rook. But I feel like people just know exactly, if I move this rook here, I'll set this thing up that I can then do like 10 moves later that will totally fuck over my opponent. And I just don't know how to do shit like that.
Oh, okay. I was like, you can do that? I was like, damn, no. I was like, then you are definitely on a higher level than me. Going back to some of the games you mentioned, first off, Codenames actually has a free official version online.
Does it?
It works really well. I've done it, like, I played it with friends, and that was very successful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I also finished Pandemic Legacy Season 1. I have Season 2. Obviously, have not gotten the chance to try it. I hear some people love it, some people don't, but I hear the new one, I don't know if you've heard of that one, Season 0.
Oh, no.
I hear that one is excellent.
Really?
I hear that one is universally like pretty, like, yeah, this is great.
Oh.
Because it seems like it, I didn't look up anything because I don't want any spoilers, but from what I've heard, it seems like it takes what Season 1's best parts were and sort of like maybe Season 2 does. I haven't done anything of from Season 2, but from what I hear, it sounds not very different, but pretty different.
It's pretty different.
Right. And I think Zero kind of circles back and does some really interesting things, I hear. But
that's exciting to hear, because I had no idea that there was even another season out.
Yeah. That's far into my future, though, because I mean, legacy games are such a commitment.
Yeah.
For me, the one right now is like Gloomhaven. Like, my wife really would like to start Season 2, although now, when the fuck can we do that?
Right.
But, for me, it's like, oh, I can't. And she's in my Gloomhaven group too, so it's like I can't handle scheduling 2 different groups of this.
Yeah, that's fair.
If I want to get these done. And then one other thing I had was you like Mysterium. I have a recommendation for you.
Oh, yeah?
For a game. If you have not, I don't know if you've played this, but if you've heard of Deception Murder in Hong Kong.
I've played that once and I loved it.
Okay.
It was so great.
I love that game. So good. I'm glad you liked it, because I do like Mysterium, but I think Deception offers for me, it gives me a similar feel of Mysterium, but I feel like people are more involved in it from the get-go, I think, because in that game, for those of you who aren't familiar listening, it's a game where you're all detectives and one of you is the murderer, and so instantly, like, as soon as the game starts, it's like you're like looking at each other's clues and accusing each other, or deducing, while one of you is also a silent clue giver, giving clues as because that person knows who the killer is. Definitely one of my favorite sort of party semi-co-op, semi-hidden trader co-op games.
That's a good point. Yeah, I feel like it also engenders less complete rage than like Secret Hitler or
true. And there's also a lot less pressure, because I think in that game, since everyone has to do the same thing, they're all looking at each other's clues, you can just kind of play the game, even if you are the killer. Just look at other people's clues and try to, you're making fake connections, but you're still making connections,
Right.
which everybody else is doing.
I want to play that now.
I want to play all board games now.
I wonder, what is the program you use again? I wonder if that one would work.
Board Game Arena. It's a website. You just sign up for free, and then if you really like it, I have a premium account, which is like, I don't know, like $1 a month. I forget. It's very cheap. It's like it's basically just to help support it. But what's nice about it is only one of you needs to have a premium account, and then you have access to all the games, just as long as one of you has a premium account.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a site that, like, because of quarantine, it just flooded with new members, and initially there was a lot of issues, like, with, because they could not handle that many people.
Right.
But honestly, I'm amazed. Like, it has a huge selection, even on the free level, and then I think it's absolutely worth it to just get the premium one, because I mean, it's got like, you can play like Terra Mystica, stuff from like Terra Mystica down to like Uno.
Wow. Like,
I've played like extremely heavy games on there, and then I play like, Liar's Dice or, Six Nimmt or whatever on there as well. It's got a really impressive selection, and they're constantly, as soon as I checking, they've added like 4 new games I haven't played. So yeah, they're constantly adding new things in beta and that sort of thing. Now, if board games are like my sort of, let's say, big passion, is there anything you have interest-wise that is kind of like yours? Is there anything that fits in that category for you?
I guess of the things that I like, I'm probably the most passionate about. I mean, I love video games, but I think a lot about TV, just from a writing perspective, and
sure,
it's also just the barrier to entry. I really love games, but then I've gotten into this even with TV shows where, I don't know if you've had this at all, but since the pandemic, it's been harder for me to start new things. Like, my brain doesn't want to process new information, hence me rewatching New Girl.
Sure.
And so there's some games that I've started in quarantine that I just haven't been able to get through because my brain doesn't want to handle new systems.
Sure.
So I just really like, I mean, it's not like a novel thing, but I really like TV, and TV has gotten so good.
No, I would actually like to hear some of your like favorites, but I have that feeling not only with TV but with games. Like you said, like I'm playing. Well, it's for a charity milestone thing. Like, I have to, but I'm playing Fire Emblem Three Houses for the 6th time.
Wow.
Which most people don't play it once. I think I'm approaching about 300 hours, because I don't know how familiar you are with the game, but it has like a new Game Plus thing. It has like multiple storylines. I've already seen all the storylines at this point. I'm just doing it now because for like a charity milestone thing, I had to play the DLC, which I hated, and then I have to like make a video about it, basically. And so, but it's comforting because since I've played it 6 times, I can jump into it and know how. I took a break from it for, I think, a couple months, and then I jumped back in. I still remember. I remember exactly how to play because it's just ingrained in my memory. Meanwhile, other games, if I step away and then come back, it's like impossible to remember how to play. Or you just like have you played the Yakuza games at all?
I haven't, actually.
Oh, they're great, but I had this problem with the first remake, Kiwami, where I loved Zero, which if you ever do play them, Yakuza 0 is one of the best games I've played in recent memory. But Yakuza 0, and then I jumped into Kiwami right after, and it's very similar in feel because they're both kind of the same engine. So I got burnt out, and then I stopped playing for like months, and then I couldn't get back into it. So for that, I had to just do a complete restart.
Right.
That's usually what ends up happening to me if I
step
away from a game. Yeah, exactly. Step away from a game too long. And then with TV shows, if it's like one season, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll watch anything. But we just recently finished watching The Mandalorian. I don't know if you've seen The Mandalorian, but it was fun. I had a good time with it. Have you seen the show?
I watched the first half, I think, of the first season. and then kind of fell off. I loved the first like 3 or 4 episodes, when it was basically just the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. And then as it started involving new characters, I got a little bit less interested. But this season is supposed to be good, right? The second season. Maybe I should jump back in.
You know, I thought, according to the reaction, you know, I think I'm someone who's very casual Star Wars fan. I have no investment in it. So I'm just having fun. Like, I think it's just like a fun, you know, spaghetti western with laser guns. And, you know, so for me, I'm having a good time. But the reason why I bring it up is, you know, my wife is not like a diehard fan, but, you know, she liked the original trilogy a lot, and she was like, "Do you want to watch Clone Wars?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I heard that's good, the animated series." Yeah. And I was like, "How many seasons is it?" And I look it up. Oh god, it's like the Genndy Tartakovsky. There's like 3 seasons, and then there's 7 seasons of the CG one. I'm like 10 seasons. I was like, you know, you can go ahead, because I know she wants to watch it like right away, and I'm like, I can't get into like 10 seasons right now. That's it's a lot. Whereas with other shows, if it's like I watch a lot of anime, so it's like anime is like 13 episodes done.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
26 episodes done. I can smash that in a sitting. You know, 13 episodes. If I'm feeling particularly sad, I can smash in a sitting. Right. It's one of those things. But so not hearing that you have like a sort of passion for television, what are some of like the, I guess, the finest, like your absolute, like, these are the pinnacles of television?
Ooh. Well, man, I guess I'll go more modern for the moment, maybe.
Okay. Sure.
Not that anyone needs me to sing its praises, because everyone knows it's great, but the HBO Watchmen series is excellent. It's really good.
I've heard good things.
It's really good. Chernobyl is really good, but very dark. Ted Lasso, a lot of people are talking about, and it's really nice for this moment in time because it's just very sweet.
What I'm not familiar with.
Ted Lasso is on Apple TV Plus, which the show that I'm on is also on. So when you're done watching Ted Lasso, you can watch Mythic Quest. But Ted Lasso is basically about this Southern coach from the States, that football coach that goes to Britain to coach their version of football, soccer, obviously.
Oh.
And it's Jason Sudeikis. And it's just, it's really earnest. It's really sweet. Sometimes it gets a bit saccharine, but it's so funny and kind of, it just has like a very sweet heart. I really like shows that are, the main sort of pull is that people are trying their best and they love each other. Parks and Recreation is one of my favorite shows, and that's basically all that show is. So it's really great. Like I said, I love Parks and Rec seasons like 2 to 4, I think, are some of the best.
That's like the best period.
Yeah. It's just such a good, solid sitcom with a really good cast and really good characters. For a while, that was my go-to show that I would just rewatch over and over and over again. I know that a lot of people have that with The Office, but I have it with Parks and Rec. Let's see. I mean, and then of all-time stretch is a little bit harder. It's always like the greatest hits. The Wire is incredible.
Yeah.
Joss Whedon is a complicated figure, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a really good show. Unfortunately,
that's my wife just finished watching that for the first time. I need to watch it because a friend, not only her but also another friend of mine, has been singing its praises for a very long time. I do need to get around to it.
I was also a late adopter. I watched it all the way through a couple of years ago, and I was really surprised how much it spoke to the female experience in a pretty genuine way. It's just really well done, and it has really iconic episodes. I'm sure you've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yep.
One of the best cartoons of all time.
Yep.
I went through a really heavy cartoon phase as well. I mean,
I would love to hear about that, actually, because I'm a big cartoon fan as well.
I mean, Adventure Time is the obvious one, but Adventure Time's incredible. Steven Universe.
Yeah.
What else was I watching at that time? It feels a little weird because a lot of these shows I've done some work for, so it feels like I'm plugging myself. But OK, Let's Be Heroes is really good.
I will absolutely plug OKKO. I fucking love.
It's so good, isn't it?
It's so good. Like, listen, it's okay. I'm in it a couple times too, so it's fine.
You are in.
There's one that you're not in called Wacky Jacks. Did you watch the whole show?
Yes, I
Watched
did.
all of it. Oh, do you remember the Wacky Jacksies episode
yes.
where they do the? I play the kid and the villain, and I play a lot of voices in that one.
That's great.
I'm like 80% of that episode.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then I pop up in some other, like a couple other ones as well. But that's like the big one of like I was brought in like, hey, like we would like you to basically voice like most of the. It's a very goofy episode. Yeah, but no, KO, like even before I was in it, I was a fan because I have a couple friends who work on the show, and then I watched it on TV and I was like, oh fuck, it's one of those things where it's like you always want to like support your friends, but then you watch it, then you're like, oh shit, it's fucking great, even though even if you weren't my friend,
right,
it's like
right.
it's great.
I'd be a fan of this, totally.
It was one of those things, and so when I watched it kind of casually whenever I managed to see it, and then when I got cast in it, I was like, I've been wanting to watch this show, and then I binged it because at first I was just like, oh, let's just get a feel for the show, but then I was like, I'm just gonna get the next season on Amazon, and it really is like, because I had Ian on in an earlier episode of the podcast.
Oh, nice.
It is one of the, I think, best cartoons of the like this sort of era, for sure.
Yeah, it's so smart and really funny. I mean, the fucking joke of KO perpetually being 6 to 11 makes me laugh every time. It's really great. It was really fun to work on too, because Ian and Toby are geniuses, and Courtney's such a good voice actor, and so is Ian. I realized during quarantine that I'd never finished the show. And then when it came out on HBO Max, I think I'd finished Enid's arc at Point, but I hadn't seen the rest of the show. And the series finale made me genuinely emotional. It's so good.
I was actually just about to bring up the series finale. One of the most maybe emotional things I've seen for an ending of a show. Like, yeah, it really got to me. Like, because I don't want to spoil anything, but like for like the sort of like overall plot of the show kind of wraps up in the episode before it. And then my wife and I were watching it, and we're like, okay, well, what's the next one gonna be?
Right.
And what it does, and I won't say what it does, but what it does is so brilliant and so like emotional and like, oh man, and it has so many like complicated feelings too, because not only what I could sense, but since I've like talked to people I know who like worked on it, it's like they wanted to do so much more.
Yeah.
And that show absolutely deserved better. Like, I'm glad it got what it got. I'm glad it managed to like, have as many episodes as it did.
Yeah.
But it absolutely deserved better. And you can sense like what could have been is like part of what makes that so bittersweet for me.
Yeah,
like
totally.
I could have watched like more and more of this just as a fan, but it really my wife cried. She was like and for me like there's I don't even want to spoil even the ending credits. They do something like very sweet.
Oh, the credits are so sweet.
Oh man, anyway, for those of you who have not watched OKKO, please watch OKKO.
Yeah, it's well worth it.
It's so good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I am really grateful too that they got enough of a heads up that they were able to finish all the arcs, because that would have been really tragic if they hadn't gotten to wrap up all the plot lines that they had set up and stuff.
Exactly. which
Yeah.
they did a good job of, considering it had to be, faster than anticipated.
Totally.
Like,
I mean, the other thing about
yeah.
that show is it's so meta that they're able to both poke fun at the fact that like reveals had to be rushed.
Sure,
And
sure.
so that they don't feel unsatisfying, and then also still make them satisfying. It's really, really well done. Being
Yeah.
under the gun and having to wrap up so many loose ends, I don't know, they did a fantastic job, and I love those guys, and I love that show.
It was so good.
Yeah. Can I ask you about something?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't really know what to ask you about specifically, but I just want to talk to you about Anime Crimes Division.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. What about
Because I love you in it. You're so good in it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, that was a show that was like, I mean, you know those guys like very well. God, it's one of the most fun, rewarding experiences I've had. Like,
had you done on camera before?
Nope.
You're so good. You're very natural at
I appreciate that, because at the time I was terrified. And even now, like, I mean, I live action is not something I've like really thought about at all. It's more like if it happens, maybe, but it's not a focus of mine necessarily. Voiceover has always been my focus. But with that, I remember very distinctly, like, before we shot the first season, Freddie picked me up from the airport, and we were just driving, and I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know, I'm gonna be really relying on you, because I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done anything like this, and I am legit like, I don't know, I'm nervous. I was like, I'm gonna let you know, and he was like, you'll be fine. He was very like, it was not like oh no, don't, no, you'll be good. No, I know you'll be good. So I was like, okay, and then, but I think because it was such, not only Freddie and later Matt with the second season, but such a supportive crew, it was like the best possible, like, sort of. Yeah, I'm getting pushed into the deep end, but I'm getting pushed into the deep end surrounded by people who all know how to swim really well, and they're also really nice.
Yeah.
So it was this thing where I had to learn a lot, kind of like on the go, but I think it worked out really well. I don't know. Have you seen the whole thing, or did you just see the first season? Or
I saw I'm a Anime Crimes Division fan. I've seen the whole thing for sure.
Oh man,
it's great.
We would have loved to do a 3, but like it's yeah, no, especially I think with 2 it was like, I felt a lot more comfortable, and then it kind of goes a lot harder in that one, and I got to do some some crazy stuff, like with like fight choreography,
right,
and like all these just a lot more ambitious stuff. Yeah, I mean, just long story short, it was it was nerve-wracking in the beginning, and obviously like one of some of the hardest work I've put into whatever anything, just because like with voiceover, you don't have to memorize lines as much. I mean, in most cases, you just walk in and the script's right there. So memorizing lines and having to think about your face and things,
right?
Man. Which I know you've had more experience in that field. I want to talk about something.
Hit me.
In that. I've been sort of like your sort of trajectory has been like always very like interesting to me, because I remember you from like, Hey Ash, what you plan, right? And then sort of seeing you venture into video games, voice acting, and then just voiceover and live action work. It was one of those things, watching someone who started online, quote unquote, and then sort of, and now you're a cemented figure in the industry, and so it kind of not to be weird, but I felt like this weird sort of like, I understand. Like, I say this to a lot of people. I say this to a lot of people. Not I understand. I'm like, I feel that because, you know, I was someone who, before I did any online, before anyone knew who I was online, I was all about voiceover. And, you know, I was getting my foot into like indie games and stuff. And then, sort of around the time people started to know who I was. That's, you know, before then, and then around then I signed with an agency, and then I started, that was around the time I think I booked KO as well. And so it was this sort of thing where people are going to know me, or a lot of people know me first and foremost for online stuff. And then, but it's, you know, I've, you know, been at least steadily, you know, getting up there. And it's this interesting thing where I talk to a lot of people who also kind of started online. Like, you know, Erica Ishii. I had her on. We were talking about that. But I kind of look at sort of where you went, and I will admit, at the time I was like, you know, that's the goal right there. That's the goal. Not to be weird, but you know, I'll be frank, because I do really like what you've managed to accomplish is pretty great, and especially like I always root for, like, Eric and I were talking about this. We always root for like people who kind of started in the online field, because I don't want to get into the again because I've talked about it before, but it's like, you know, some people are like, oh, like, are you a real actor? Are you a real voice actor if you started online? And it's like, fuck you. We are. You know, it's like, but
that's so interesting to me, because I feel like, I mean, not to just, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but I feel like if you were watching your shorts, it's pretty clear to me that you have a lot of talent. Like, it's bizarre to me. It seems like you've gotten some sort of guff for it, but they're just really smart and funny, and you perform really well in them. So to me, I would look at those and be like, oh, put this guy in a million video games because he's good at this. You know?
I think that's what has sort of helped. Like, I will say, like, I don't actually get a lot of guff from people online, like fans or like people like commenters, like because I think what I was posting at the time was like, oh yeah, like this guy like knows at least how to like act and, you know, be funny or whatever and perform. I would say it's, you know, and I've kind of tread these waters before on the podcast, but it's like, it's really more like people in the industry where it's like, yeah. It's like, I would say 90% of the time, it's either, 95% even, I'll say. Like, it's been very positive, and like, oftentimes people don't even know. And then they'll like tell me after, like, oh, I didn't know you were some YouTube guy. I'm like, kind of glad you didn't know. But, because a lot of people just don't know, which I honestly prefer. But in a few minor cases, you know, I did get replaced in something because from what I heard from secondhand from other people, that guy's a fucking YouTuber. It's okay, that thing was dog shit anyway. I'm not gonna say what it was, man. But that was that only happened once though, and it was not, and then I it was fine. But there have been like I mean, you know, even with Borderlands 3, which we're both in, Joel did not want to send me the audition. He told me this. He told me this later after I come into recording. He was like, "Oh no, yeah, this like because I guess he had maybe sent some stuff to other people. I don't know." And he was like, "I'm tired of sending stuff to like people who don't know how to act." But then he sent me the sides, and I as soon as I sent them back, I won't say I crushed it, but I will say okay, I'll accept the compliment. Yeah, I did well. I basically did well. As soon as I sent them back, I remember he was like, "Oh, yeah, wow, thank you. First off, short turnaround, and also very good." which you never hear, from like,
Right.
and I was like, oh, okay, but I didn't expect. I was like, whatever. Well, the game. It's like you audition, you forget about it, and you just move on. But he later told me, he was like, oh no, as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, who is this guy? And then he looked at me, oh, this guy can, knows what he's doing, not just like at what do you say, an influencer, or somebody who wants, has no experience but just wants to do it for the sake, just to do it, like
Right.
for fame or whatever. That was never for me, that was always the goal, right? Whereas
Right.
online stuff was always an accident that I never suspected would ever happen, and just sort of happened.
It's so interesting because I feel like, I guess Hey Ash predated the idea of an influencer or a YouTube star kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't even think about how you starting when you did would carry different associations. Because for us, it was like us and Mega 64 and Smosh maybe at that time doing video game stuff. And so I don't think that pathway or that idea of an influencer had even really cemented,
Right.
So now I could see how it would be just a different landscape that you have to sort of differentiate yourself as like, well, no, I do this, but I also, I want to do voiceover and I'm good at voiceover, and it's interesting because for me, Hey Ash was a door into those opportunities, and and I'm sure that's also been the case for you sometimes, probably, right? But I guess it's also been sort of a difficult thing to navigate occasionally, where people don't realize that you got the chops.
Yeah, I think it's a thing where if they do have doubts, as soon as I walk in and like go, they're immediately relieved. Like like they're like, oh, okay, yeah, he's not just because I have heard horror stories of like, oh, we had to get this guy in and he had no idea how to act, and but yeah, there is this I'm not gonna there is like a little bit of a stigma, because it's I think when you think YouTuber, you think what, like a Jake Paul, right? You think like
right.
some fucking moron, and it's a thing where you I'm like, I think, at a good place with it, where YouTube is not my dream, or even, I don't want to say it's not my passion, but it's like my fun hobby that did well on accident. And I think that's always been sort of a healthy place for me with it, of like, yeah, I just have fun with it, and people like it, and it does well. That's great. Like, but if it like dies and people like don't know me for YouTube, that's okay, because that's not what my dream was never like, I want a million. There was a time where I thought 100,000 subscribers was literally impossible. I was like, there's no way. Like, I thought, I don't know how human beings accomplish that.
Right.
And it's kind of surreal to look back on that. But, again, like, it was, kids these days want to be YouTubers. They want to be YouTube stars. And that was not something I ever cared about, or not that I was like, oh, that'd be cool, but it was like not a dream of mine by any means.
Right.
Now, as far as on the voice-over side, and I'm curious, because obviously, like, you're definitely doing a lot of live action work. Like, what would you say it's all about, just sort of acting first, like, it doesn't matter if it's voice or on screen, or do you have like a preference? I'm just curious.
I found now that really the most important thing is the people you're working with.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because there's some on-camera set would be a nightmare, and there are some that are delightful. Like the Mythic Quest set is amazing. Everyone that works on the show is fucking great, and we love each other, and we have fun making the show, and it's delightful. And same thing with voiceover. There's some projects that I've been on where I'm like, I'm going to blow my brains out if I have to do another session, or this is incredible. This is such a great group of people, and they're collaborative, and they're, so it really does depend, I think, on the people that you're working with. And the material, of course, but even then, like, you could be recording something that's maybe not the most earth-shattering script, but if it's fun and you like the people that you're working with, then it's going to be enjoyable,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's sort of what I found more and more as I work more, is like, do these people have a respect for me, for each other? Are egos getting in the way, or are we all trying to work hard to make the product good? Because that's really the space you want to be in at the end of the day. And, in voiceover, you tend to interact with or come in contact with, a lot of ego less than in other contexts, but it's still there. Yes. Or you can come across people that are really, really, really precious with their material and sort of don't 100% trust you to be able to add to it.
Sure.
And that can be challenging because you kind of then feel a bit less like an artist and more of like I don't know what the analogy would be.
Like a
puppet? Construction worker or something, where I'm like, I'm just trying to find the bricks that you want me to lay,
Gotcha.
So yeah, I think it really, for me, it's really like, is the project interesting and are the people collaborative? Because that combination, I don't care really what the medium is. If that combination is there, then it's going to be fulfilling.
Sure.
And what's cool, I think, in games in particular, is that I feel like that sort of spirit of collaboration. I mean, I'm curious what your experience has been, but I feel like it's becoming more and more pervasive. Whereas I think when I started, it was, I think performance is just becoming more, I think it's being taken a bit more seriously as the years go on also.
Absolutely.
Which helps.
Yeah. It's interesting hearing you kind of talk about that. Like, I think for me, it's always going to be voiceover. Oh, well, who knows, right? But, like, I think because it allows me more freedom in what sort of roles I can play.
Right. Totally.
I mean, if I can get fucking, roles I'd never get, like Anime Crimes Division and low, like, I mean, right. that was like a dream, because it's like no one would ever cast, unless it's a comedy, no one's ever gonna cast me as the lead in a gritty action-packed detective drama, and that's fine. Like, right. I will be the detective's hacker or something, or his best friend or whatever.
Right. Right.
So it's but having that experience though, there is, like, stuff about live action that you don't get. You get that sort of, well, I guess with motion capture it's a little different, but like let's say with right. just like even just being on like a real set, and like even I would say, let's say, just comparing traditional voiceover, face to face, interaction with your fellow actors. There are things about it that are nice, and I'm like, yeah, I do. Right. I did think that was actually a really enriching experience. Having to deal with those. With that said, I am so much more comfortable just in in the booth. Like,
sure,
it's just like, I don't know about you, and this is not me trying to be like, oh, I'm so cool, but like, I used to be very nervous, but when I walk into a booth now, it's actually very comforting. I don't know. Do you?
Oh yeah.
Like for me, it's like like a nice, like, warm swimming pool. I don't know. That's a weird analogy, but it's like, it feels very comfortable. Like, this is, I know what to do in here. Put these headphones on. Like, I know, and it's gonna, well, 99% of the time, most of the time, it's fun. But it's gonna. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a good time, and I'm gonna come out of this very happy and just feel creatively enriched. Whereas if I get cast in a next live action thing, I'm not gonna feel that way. I'm gonna be like, right, fuck, I hope I don't mess this up, which I felt for years, until now it's at a point where it's like, okay, yeah, it's very comforting in a weird way, which I think maybe to some people who don't feel that way, it sounds like I'm trying, like I'm bragging, but for me, I'm just going, no, I think it's me just going, this is how much I love this form, this medium.
Yeah, and I think it's time and experience as well, too. You know, I remember I got cast in a Nickelodeon pilot that didn't end up going anywhere, but it was my first, I think it was my first animation gig ever. And I remember being in the booth and like shaking. I was so nervous because it was a group record and I was completely new. And and I remember my director being like, "You need to take a breath and slow down." And I was like, okay. But it's just the stakes feel, you know, when you first start, it's something that you want to do so badly. The stakes feel really high. It feels like there's a lot of pressure. And then it's really nice, I think, to get. I mean, I think actually it's kind of a nice example because I think probably people that are starting out in any sort of creative field have that kind of fear. And it's nice to know, I think, that the more you work, the more comfortable you get with your craft. It can feel just like a warm blanket stepping into a booth.
Yeah.
That you know that like you have the tools that you need to be able to do a good job and that there are people on the other side of the glass that are going to help facilitate that and you can just have fun. I assume you can probably get there with on camera as well if you had enough experience and time, like with voiceover. But yeah, I think that feeling is kind of, it's, to me, I could see it also being aspirational. Like, oh, it'll be nice, you know, if there's a new voice actor listening to this, then maybe like, oh, it'll be nice to get to that place eventually and not walk into every booth and being like, fuck, which is where I started.
Yeah, everybody starts. I mean, I here's my like my first, like I said, I don't know if I said, my first animation thing and my first SAG job was KO. And it was and it was that Wacky Jacks episode. And so it was, and this was even before I moved out here. I flew out to record. It was this very wild period where this was like, 2016, around that time. I booked this like my first SAG job, and I flew out there, and I'm like, okay, I'm booking. Okay. I did a SAG job. Do I need to like move out here? And then obviously I did, but it's like we'll see. But I flew out here, and I'm in my friend's like apartment, and I'm like, and it's a. For your first fucking job, it's like, or first fucking animation SAG job, it's like, okay, you're going into the Cartoon Network studios, which you've dreamed about your whole life. It's a group record, which, okay, that's terrifying. And you're, no joke, voicing 3 characters, and they talk, you are talking for 70% of the episode. Like, it is like monologues upon monologues. It is a lot. Oh my God. So I was just...
That's terrifying.
It was absolutely terrifying. So it was this thing where I rehearsed, like, do you rehearse your voiceover if they give you the script?
Sometimes, depending. I usually now will just, depending on the character, I'll read the script and then I'll go in kind of fresh.
I'll read it usually, but I don't usually like out loud like practice it anymore, which maybe
no, unless I'm scared about it, like you were.
Oh yeah, exactly. If it was like some huge thing,
right?
Well, I don't know. Even then, this is a whole. I'll have another conversation after this. Anyway, this KO thing was like, I was out loud, like, you know, sort of like rehearsing it. Which obviously I think helped, but even then, like, going in, I think it says a lot. What you were saying before about experience, even the experience I had up to that point had prepared me to do well in that moment. Whereas if I had gotten this opportunity, let's say 4 years prior, I would have completely fucked it up. It would have been terrible. And that's not me being like humble. It would have been bad. So, in terms of nerves and in terms of first big things, it's that was a doozy for me. What I was about to go into or sort of stumbled upon was the kind of, you know, early on when I was a little more nervous, I would, rehearse, kind of like practice the reads out loud. Now I can just kind of read the script. Sometimes I don't even read the script, but because sometimes I like to actually go in just kind of fresh. But I actually found like if I rehearsed it too much, if there was a certain read, I was like really like, oh, this is like obviously the way like I love, this is the way to read it. You fall in love with a read too much, and then you go in there like, no, actually, just do it. Or I'll walk in after having rehearsed a voice or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, we're changing the voice entirely."
Right.
Or oh yeah, we're rewriting this, and it became a thing of, oh yeah, I need to. It's a thing where I was like, I guess it was good to rehearse, but one thing you learn pretty quickly is you have to be able to adapt and on your toes very quickly. I don't know if you've had what your sort of take on that is with.
Oh no, totally. I mean, you really have to be nimble for sure. I remember early on with animation, I think if I found out that I had multiple characters, I would sort of do the similar thing where I would try to find voices for each of them before going in. And then I found that you go in, like you're saying, and the director all often will be like, oh, actually, let's try this or do this. And you kind of have to throw out everything that you tried to do
even
the
now,
night before.
Even now, like I'll like read a script and go, oh, okay, I'll probably do this kind of voice and this kind of voice. And then you do it and you're like, no, do it like, we have a guy who sounds like that. Do it like this. I'm like, oh, all right. And you just kind of have to.
You just have to pivot.
Yeah.
And not be precious about it, which I think is cool. I actually like, I like that about voiceover, that it really does prevent you from being super precious with your choices. And I find that if I'm going to defend a choice, I have to have like some sort of narrative. I have to have a good reason because, I'm not going to get attached to a read or to a character choice if there's just a different preference. But it does make you sort of focus on, it sort of strips away any sort of trappings of like ego and stuff like that you can get attached to, because you really do have to just be able to like throw out everything that you were thinking before.
I think that's very well said. Now we're kind of getting close to the end here. What I usually like to do is for the guest to give you an opportunity, if you have a topic you'd like to bring up or a question for me or anything, feel free. If not, don't worry about it. I got other things we can talk about. But if there's anything you can think of, no pressure though.
What's the first thing that you're gonna do when the pandemic
This
is
actually
over?
was a question that I thought of earlier when we were talking about like board games and stuff. What am I gonna do when my wife and I talk about this all the time because we're just going crazy inside, stuck inside. But besides board games, which is the obvious, like, get people to play board games. I think her answer was, and it might be mine, just going to like a sit-down restaurant will feel nice. Like, that just seems like such a foreign. Not for some people who apparently don't give a shit about other people's health and safety, but for me, the idea of sitting in a restaurant and you order food and you just get to enjoy being somewhere that's not your fucking apartment, like that sounds really nice. So maybe either a sit-down restaurant, going to the movies, like that's something I really miss.
I really want to go to the movies.
And then, I don't know what it's gonna be like now with some recent news, but we're big Disneyland fans, and that's somewhere that we wanted to go back to because we have had annual passes. They just announced that annual passes are no longer a thing. So I don't know what the deal is going to be with that, if there's going to be some replacement or something. But that's a place that I love going to. So I would say just off the top of my head, probably those three. And that's excluding like just hanging out with my friends, like seeing my friends, having my friends over. I've actually been making a list. Like I have a Word document that I think it's just called like quarantine checklist. And it's like anytime like my friends and I have been like, we should do this. Oh man, wouldn't it be like, I miss this. I'm like, I'm going to write it down. And it's
Uh-huh.
Kind of like a weird spin on the bucket list of like like I wasn't expecting to make sort of
Right.
a weird bucket list, but it kind of feels like that, like, I've always wanted to go there. Why haven't I gone there? Before it's like, I'm too busy, or whatever, I don't want to drive there.
Yes.
But it's like, being stuck inside for a year, it's like, wow, you fool. You could have gone anywhere. You could
Right.
go anywhere and you didn't. Like, so it's this thing of like, I'm going to go here now and make sort of like I don't know. It could be it's just sort of waiting to explode, this sort of balloon of like, once I'm vaccinated, once it's safe, it's going to be a lot of things on my itinerary. But in terms of general things, I would say those three come to mind. How about you? What are things you're just like, God, I cannot wait for? We'll let this on an optimistic note. What are some things that you really are looking forward to once it's safe to be out?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's so funny because I've been a homebody my whole life. And this has really tested the limits of how much I self-identify as a homebody. But I think I took travel for granted. I'm really lucky in that often I've had to travel for work. So like last year, we took a trip to New York for press for Mythic Quest. And the year before, I think I went to the Netherlands for Horizon stuff, so I've been really, really lucky in that. Often I've just sort of traveled as a sort of byproduct of my work. And so I think I kind of took it for granted. And the other day I went on a walk at a time of day that I don't usually go on a walk. It was like sunset. I usually go like morning or the middle of the day. And there were people out, and it reminded me of the way that people just like lounge around when I was in Paris. They were just like sitting on the grass and just like looking at birds. And there was sort of a like, we had to get out of our house vibe, but it was nice. And it made me want to just get on a plane and go somewhere so bad. Like, I don't care where even. I could fucking get on a plane and go to Kentucky and be like, Kentucky. Like, I just can't wait to be somewhere not Los Angeles, to feel like I really traveled a great distance and I'm in a different culture. That's what I really want to do. So yeah, once I get vaccinated, I texted a couple of friends, like, can we just take a friend's trip anywhere when this is done? And one of my friends was like, I'm just worried that I'm going to be like too weird, like to be around other people or to be in a different place after all of this. And I was like, we don't even have to go to a place that's populated. Like, we could go to Iceland where no one lives and just be there. Like, I just want to go somewhere else. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I really want to grab a couple of friends and just get on a plane and go somewhere.
I'll have a final question for you related to that, but just to kind of go off what you were saying, like, I can't believe I didn't think about travel, because we're constantly not only me and my wife, but me and my friends are constantly talking about, oh God, we should go here, have you been to Japan?
Yes, I did my study abroad in Japan, and I love it.
We are desperate because I've gone twice so far, mainly Tokyo, but we are just, my wife loves going to Japan, and we are desperate to go back, like to like Osaka. We want to check out Osaka, and I'd love to go back to Korea. Like, so I am just hungry for travel, like, because like you, like, I also took travel for granted because pre-COVID I would go to a lot of cons, like, as a guest,
right?
And so I was, traveling not only around the country, but I went to like Ireland. I went to I was so comfortable being on a plane. I don't know if you ever got this way about planes. Like, for me, I hated flying initially. When I, like, let's say this was like, I don't know, 5 years ago, but because of cons, as soon as I'm on a plane, I can fall asleep. I don't know. As soon as it
becomes really mundane, which is bananas because you're fucking flying through the air. But yeah, it becomes mundane when you, especially for cons, you're just constantly on flights. Yeah,
you just are like, oh, I'm taking out. I am out. But I bring that up because I've been watching shows, and whenever they're on an airplane, it genuinely feels weird. It's like, oh wow, it's like, watching like old timey footage. Like I remember what that was like to be on a plane. I used to be like kind of sick, not sick of, but yeah, kind of sick of flying like a lot and like
sure.
going to the airport like all the time, like and now
Totally.
I desperately, I'm like, get me on a plane anywhere. I'm like with you.
Yeah.
Like, if just
I feel you. I definitely got plane fatigue, and I also, for whatever reason, I'm not scared of flying, but I would have a lot of anxiety all of the steps leading up to getting on the plane. Once I got on the plane, I would be like, oh, but for some reason I'd always get really paranoid that security would take forever, or my flight would get canceled, or whatever it happened to be.
Oh no, I'm the exact same way. So, yeah, no, it's once you're on the plane, it's like, hey, my bag is good, and I'm on the plane. I don't have to worry about missing the plane.
I don't have to worry about anything. I just have to land
Sure.
now. So anytime I would go to the airport, it would just be, I'd get like a huge burst of anxiety. But now I'm like, yeah, I want to eat at lemonade in the Terminal 4. I want to stand in security lines. Yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted. Which, yeah, I sort of surprised myself because, like I said, I think I took it for granted. I think I found it sometimes stressful of like, oh, I have to go to do this thing when I have all this voiceover I need to do or whatever. But now I'm just like, what a joy it would be to go somewhere else. And,
exactly. So my last question for you is, for me, sort of the top 3 places I would like to travel to, if I could go right now and it was safe, would be, I think, Japan. I really want to go to Australia because I've never been. I have family there, and I have a very good friend who lives there, and I would love to just take like a week or two, definitely like 2 weeks, to just like experience Australia, and then this is not one country, but I've only been to Ireland, really, in Europe. I would love to just kind of love to just kind of take like a tour around Europe. That would be sort of like the dream for me. Now, what would be like if you can go right now, like, hey, well, not right now, but you can go. What top 3 places where would you want to travel to?
I think Japan, because it's been over 10 years since I've been there now, I think, which is bananas. Japan, New Zealand, I think. I want to go to Hobbiton. I want to ride a horse about. And then I think, I'm part Thai and I've never been to Thailand.
Oh.
So I
hear Thailand's great.
Yeah.
I would love to go to Thailand too. One day.
One day. Such a wistful sigh. One day.
I feel like lately, like, especially like with. So this podcast won't be out for a while, but around the time of this recording, we have a new president, which feels very good.
Yep.
And then vaccines obviously aren't out yet, but it's just like we're just waiting. It's so it's like this kind of antsy feeling.
Yes.
Of like it's like close, but we have no idea when yet.
Right.
And I don't think I've said this on the podcast yet, but because I record a lot of these way in advance. Maybe I talked about this before. It feels like weird time capsules. Like I'm gonna if I listen back to this, like when it comes out, it's like, yeah, that's right. At that time, that was right when. And I don't usually timestamp, like what do you call it, like refer to what's happening at the moment in the episodes,
right.
But sometimes I do if it just comes up, and it's a weird mark of like certain times of this weird quarantine life, and all the conversations are like, oh man, wouldn't it be nice? It's like listening to like BioShock audio diaries if it was much less serious. No, I wouldn't say much less serious, but like much less horror. No, I wouldn't even say. Okay, you know what? It's like listening to BioShock audio diaries. I'm just gonna say that. Like it just it's people just kind of mundanely accepting grim circumstances,
right?
And be like, oh yeah, in the better times, it'll be good. But
Yeah, it is interesting to be because I guess I'll timestamp it. Today is inauguration day, so Biden just was sworn in.
Yes.
So yeah, there is a sort of antsiness of like, okay, I know that things are going to get, at least with COVID, will get better because he acknowledges that it's a problem and is trying to have some sort of policy to do anything.
Right.
But there is this sort of antsiness of like, I know it's going to get better now. I just don't know when.
Yes, exactly.
But I will take the relief of I know it's going to get better now.
I'll just take the relief that it's not fucking Trump. Like
that it's not Trump.
Like,
Woo,
oh my
mama.
Like, yeah. Oh God.
Oh boy.
Well, on that note, I guess. Thank you for being on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for having me. Of course. Where can people find you?
Twitter, Instagram, the whole deal. Watch Mythic Quest if you haven't yet. It's a good show. And then you'll have Apple TV, so you can watch Ted Lasso too.
Nice. It all ties back to the Ted Lasso. But yeah, thank you very much. This has been great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.